tired, so tired. Overtired.
Hey, welcome to Overtired. I'm here with Christina Warren and Jeff Severns Gunsel. Trigger warning at the top of the show. We may be discussing some themes of suicidal ideation. We'll see how that goes, but just be warned if that is a trigger for you. Maybe skip this one or fast forward to the next chapter. We'll see. How you guys doing? Better than you, obviously.
I was gonna say I was was doing okay, and then heard that. No, I mean I'm fine, but I'm more interested in how you're doing.
Yeah, I feel like let's go.
Get
Hi,
that.
Brett. Hi, Christina.
Let's get that off the plate at the top. So I have been going through some dark thinking, and it's not all the time. It's especially evenings. I'm not planning suicide. I'm not thinking about what I would do or how I would do it or anything like that. I'm just thinking how much I would like to not be here.
Mhm.
And it's not at the crisis level where I want to call a hotline, which I have done. I've done the hotlines, and anyone in Minnesota, 211 is a great resource, and nationwide 988 is a great resource. But it's not at a crisis point where I'm like, if I don't talk to someone, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm not hurting myself, but the thoughts get very dark and they scare me, and I don't like to tell anybody about them because people aren't equipped to deal with that my partner isn't equipped to deal with those feelings. They're very scary when you hear someone close to you or even tangentially. Like for me, when I was watching Welcome to Wrexham last night, and I had been having a pretty good night, and then this girl that was kind of a main character in that episode talked about how her father had committed suicide. And they were showing pictures of like him being happy and like a loving father. And just like it hit me like how people can be so outwardly affable and be so hurting inside. And just hearing about other people and suicidal ideation and suicide itself, it hits me in the gut. Like I cry, just like I sob when I hear that stuff. It feels a little too close to home for me. So that's my mental health check-in. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm really, really sad to. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I completely understand the hesitancy in sharing this stuff because you're right. People don't know how to deal with it. In my experiences, it's one of two responses. It's either people who are really disturbed and really upset by it, or what I would find is arguably even the worst response, which is that they're not concerned at all. They just assume that you're full of shit, and that you're just saying stuff, and that they don't fucking
that
take it
would
seriously.
be awful. I haven't run into that. Everyone who I have talked to takes it very seriously.
With all respect, you're a guy, and that
okay.
and that's it's a massively gendered thing. As mental health is in general. Like women have been historically treated so differently when it comes to our mental health than men have. Like we were the ones who were sent to sanitariums. We were the ones who, are called hysterical. Like it's a whole thing. So, I am glad people are taking it seriously. Makes me think, you haven't had manic episodes in a while, right?
No, I have not.
But this definitely feels like this is like a depressive episode.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And as somebody who has been low key depressed for a couple of years and was in a really bad place earlier this year, and I'm doing better now. Like I can completely relate to what you're saying. I hope that your doctor, you can look at like med opportunities and other things to try to find the right balance.
It's weird. Like I don't have a relationship with my psychiatrist where I feel super like I can tell her I'm doing okay. Like I am by all measures. Like
But
what
you're not.
I know,
That
but
this
like
th th
she
th th this is the trap, though. This is the trap. We're doing okay. I'm not actually gonna do anything. I just sometimes think about it, and I just would maybe rather not exist. I'm not planning anything. I'm not actually going to, take those steps. It's fine. It's not fine. Like, that's
yeah.
depression, and that
So
needs to be worked on, and I get not having a relationship, maybe having that trust
well,
level,
so
but
I did have plans to talk to my therapist very seriously about it, very openly.
good.
Like I have developed my relationship with her is very open and honest, and I will tell her like exactly how much I drink. I will tell her exactly like how my relationship with Ella is going. And I had every intention of talking to her about this, but she got sick this week and
Mm,
canceled. So I have to wait a week, which is it's fine. I'll make it, but more her than my psychiatrist, which she doesn't prescribe my meds.
of course.
And the shitty thing about being bipolar is it's hard to treat bipolar depression because every psychiatrist is worried that they're going to make you manic by giving
Right.
you antidepressants.
Or worse, they're not worried.
Right.
Right.
Right. But in this case, I mean, I do like talking to your therapist is great, and I completely understand the hesitancy of talking to your psychiatrist. But if this is something like in most cases, at least in my experience, this isn't something that it doesn't just go away. And given your bipolar and given like the other like history of stuff you've had, I would be concerned, about like, is this a meta alignment thing? So even though I completely understand not necessarily wanting to talk about this stuff, I do also I encourage you to talk to your psychiatrist. Because I think you have to if you want to, treat this the best way that you can.
Yeah, I find myself trying to be so upbeat when I talk to her because I don't want her to fuck with like what is working.
Yeah.
Um,
And I get it. I completely I this year I get it more than anything, but I
yeah,
also like, is it really working? It would be the question I would ask.
yeah,
Um,
that's fair. That's
you
fair.
know what I mean? Like because that's the thing. Like we can all be in our places, and this is why I think like depression is so fucking insidious, is that we will convince ourselves, we'll go through so many mental gymnastics to convince ourselves that we're not depressed and that
Yeah.
things aren't that bad and that everything's okay. And we go out of our way to hide things. And that is why, to your point, why there are people who will look on the outside like they just have everything going for them and just
Mhm.
have the most affable personalities and are in a lot of pain. And that is not an accident. In my opinion, I think that most of us who are depressed, like you're a very good liar, you're a very good actor, and and part of that is because you feel a sense of shame around being depressed. You feel a sense of obligation to not let people know you're depressed. You feel a sense of just general like embarrassment, and then also there's this aspect of, oh well, if I just fake it, it'll get better. And there's a certain truth to, how you act and how you put yourself out can have a real impact on your mental health and your energy and whatnot. Like it certainly is
Mhm.
better to be out with people, in my opinion, and to do exercise and do other stuff that can all genuinely have real impact on your endorphins and on your serotonin levels. But it's not enough to get you out of like a dark place. And so um we delude ourselves into thinking things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
And then if it goes on too long, it is that bad. So,
I do have one friend who is also very open about her mental health. And she suffers from extreme anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation. And I have been able to um, be completely open with her, and we can tell each other, what you're feeling isn't real. Like it's real to you, but people do actually want you around, and your life is actually important, and we
mhm.
can like just basic affirmations. And that has been really good for me. We have her over to the house once in a while and just have a fun evening, but then our Facebook messages are where like we can kind of confide our darker thoughts in each other and support each other, and she's been really good for me.
That's really good, and I'm glad you have a person, like that, you can talk to that openly, because I think it's really important, and it's rare, like, even people who, like, again, as you said, like, people in your life, partners, family members, whatnot, their level of understanding is different.
Yeah.
Some people will take it very seriously, some people won't, and then there's also kind of the fear, which is like, okay, is someone going to take this to the level that I don't need to take this to? Because like you said, you're not calling 211, you're not calling or 988 or whatever the number is. Like you're not at that point. It's not at a crisis point. It's just kind of a low level, like
Mhm.
always. I'm putting words in your mouth now, but
No,
at least
you're
my
at
experience,
you're
it's
correct so far.
it,
Yeah.
it's like a low level, like always on kind of like malaise, kind of undercurrent thing. Where
Mhm.
when, especially when you're alone, you have these intrusive thoughts that you can't turn off. That again, it's not to a point where you're going to be, doing something to harm yourself, but you do have kind of this, like thought, like, what if I just didn't wake up? What if I just wasn't
Yeah.
here? How much easier would things be if I didn't have to do any of this?
Yep.
And um, and then I'm really sorry you're going through this.
Thanks.
And again, I really encourage you, even though it's difficult, to talk to your doctor because again, like, and I say this with full empathy because it's what I've been dealing with for the last 6 months. But you think your med situation is okay. It's not if you're still going through this. So I totally get wanting to salvage what's working, but also like do some deep thinking about, is it really working, right? Because clearly what you've been on has done a great job in stopping your every 3 week manic episodes. But it might have, gone too far in the other direction. And
Yeah.
that's not livable either. And I don't know your psychiatrist. I know there are plenty of terrible psychiatrists out there. I cannot imagine a psychiatrist who would be like, "Oh yeah, we would much rather have someone be low key suicidal than
Sure.
have a
Right.
manic episode." You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
no, you need to find a balance. So anyway, I'm sorry you're going through this, and I love you. And
Thank you.
and if you ever need to talk off pod about anything, I'm obviously here. So
Thanks. Jeff's been quiet.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to call the hotline, but as soon as we start recording, I'm not. That's not making fun. I'm just. It's a loving laugh at how funny we are as people.
totally.
It's such a hard feeling that, like, maybe I don't want to be here. And I'm sorry that you're having that. I have had that feeling. Sometimes I think I'm not prescribing this to you, or even. But sometimes I think, wait a minute, actually, what I really need is for the rest of the fucking world to disappear for like 2
Yeah,
days and just give
totally.
me some space where I don't have, because for me, when I feel like that, half of it is that like I'm anticipating some kind of either connecting force coming towards me, someone calls or is in my space or whatever else, and I just need to not have someone in my space, not have someone calling or asking anything of me. Um, and what I really wish, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could just press pause in my life. I'm like, no, I just want to press pause on everything around my life.
Yep.
And I think I could just enjoy myself for a little bit.
Don't tell my employer, but we've gone through more management changes, and it has left me in a no man's land where everyone thinks I'm working for someone else. And during this period of depression, I basically have been doing like the bare minimum and nobody seems to care. Like no one even notices. It makes me worry about the long-term steadiness of my employment. But right now I haven't had to take disability. I've just been granted this no man's land where I have no weekly meetings with any manager.
Oh my God.
I have managers that are like, reach out if you have any questions. And I'm like, I don't have any questions. I have automated a good portion of my job, which,
Which of
like
course you have.
I
Yeah.
deserve to be paid for that. That's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, I'm really grateful that my day-to-day employment has kind of just worked out to work with my current state of mind.
Do you remember that story? I think it's on. I think I just found the Google thing. I think it was from the early 2000s, called it like about the forgotten employee, about the guy who was like hired at this place and they just like literally forgot that he existed, but he was still getting his paychecks
Uh-huh.
every week, even though he was literally doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that was like a great
Yeah. I get paid way too much for as little as I'm doing these last couple of weeks.
I mean, but this is fine. This is a little bit on them for doing like the management thing that your employer is known to do, and hey, that my employer's owner is also known to do. B, it's the holiday season, so everybody is checked the fuck out.
Yeah,
Like everybody's
for
checked
sure.
from this point of time as we're recording this. Everybody's going to be checked out until like the week after New Year's. Like
Yeah, for sure.
like everybody's completely out of it. And C, you do a lot, you know, and you've been productive in other ways. So like let them figure it out. Like I trust me, like my self-review for this like first half of the year, like I'm not getting promoted, which sucks because I really would like
Right.
to be promoted, right? I'd really like to get promoted, but I'm also like, no, I'm not getting promoted, but I'm also not getting fired.
Right.
Even though like
Yep.
I've been going through a lot of shit and probably should have taken disability.
Yep.
So like be grateful that we work in an industry unlike what Jeff does where we can actually like half-ass it to the extreme and still be okay, which is kind of like it kind of sums up what's wrong with corporate America and the tech industry in general. But you know what? I'm tired of like never taking advantage.
Yeah, no, when you were talking about this, I was thinking about how like I'm part of this member-owned research collaborative, and there's like 9 of us, and we all work on teams together.
Oh
And
yeah.
we're all responsible for the. I'm like, oh my
Oh,
god,
yeah.
it sounds so nice. Although what I would like more than what you have, Brett, is more like what Big Head had in Silicon Valley, where like he's. Did you watch the show?
Yeah, I can't remember what
he
situation
gets
you're
into a
talking
situation with all these these people that hang out on the roof where like
about.
they couldn't cancel their contracts and they need to just let them run out their
Yep.
contracts and they need to be on premises, so they just sit on a roof doing nothing.
Right.
And I was like, every time I see that, I'm like, I want to work in corporate America.
Oh no, totally. And although the interesting thing is at this point, I think they've all figured out like this would be funny. I would love I miss Silicon Valley so much for so many reasons. Like it's a great show. And they nailed the parody and the other stuff just like perfectly.
Mm.
But it was also one of those things where I am like, okay, they I would love to see them do it like today, because today I think that they would just find a way to get out of the contract, or they would just like pay the penalty and they just be like, yeah, you're done, you're fired.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that would be like the ideal thing. Would just be to be like, yep, I just can sit out this. But in general, also, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Like Jeff has like real responsibilities and like has real people around and has like works in a field there people will definitely notice when you're not doing it. And I think it's hard for people like Brett and I who have come from jobs where we had real responsibilities and people really noticing. It's hard for us to then go into places where people don't, or where even better, where like the bare minimum will make you be seen as a hero and you're like, wait, what?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And because it moves so fucking slowly in comparison, you're just like, oh
No, it
so this
sounds
is
like
how
a
people
form of
actually work.
torture to me. Like I think I would be mostly at peace with it. But it also sounds like
You'd have a
just
hard
the
time.
lack of definition is hard.
Well, lack of
I,
definition and slowness. I think you'd be bored at certain times.
Yeah.
I wrote 3 articles this year. Like my job, technically I'm a technical writer, even though my job title is software developer. I'm a technical writer, and I wrote 3 total pieces of content.
But weren't they some of the most successful?
One of those pieces of content made it into the top 20 pieces of content for the entire
because you're a
fiscal
fucking
year.
great writer.
Yeah.
Which is not something that the people in your job before you probably
And so
were.
No.
at my quarterly review, I got to say, yeah, I was in the top 20 developer content that went out for the year, even though like I didn't have much else to show.
Right.
That I did the bare minimum, and I got patted on the back. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got a bonus. So
You got a bonus, and you automate the shit out of a bunch of things. You build tools for a lot of other people to do stuff. Like you're a great, great, great writer. if I were hiring someone for a documentation team, I wouldn't necessarily hire you to be a writer. I would maybe hire you to be like maybe an editor, maybe to someone to look over certain stuff,
Yeah.
maybe someone to help with style guides. But I would really hire you to be like the tooling person and to be like the
Yep.
person to like help like come up with the efficiencies.
That-
Not at all as it
Because you're not going to be able to help yourself. You will write the documentation.
Yeah,
Right,
that is,
right.
That is my niche for sure.
And I mean, I'm just, being again like candid. It's like you're such a good writer. Like, okay, I put Brett on like the really hard things, but I don't want to waste his time or his talents in having him do the day-to-day bullshit documentation stuff that anybody can do. Like that's not why I hire Brett. Like I would hire Brett to do the stuff that's more complicated. Like the same thing, like you don't hire me to write your code. I can come up with a great demo and I can certainly, like explain how stuff works, but like that's not why you hire me. If I needed to make that as like my day-to-day career, I could do that, but that's not why you hire me. You hire me to be your person who's hosting events and who's giving talks and who's, kind of being like a public face of your company. Like that's why you hire me. You don't hire me to be the person who's, building
Behind
all
the scenes,
right.
writing. Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
I mean,
sure.
or even behind the scenes as like a PM, like I'd be happy to do that. But like if I'm really going to be in a PM role, it's going to need to be one that's more public facing, that is the person people can blame or praise, to be clear.
We're so opposite in that regard. Like my current manager, who is actually like a VP, he keeps suggesting that I do presentations, that I do webinars or go to conferences and present. And that is not what I signed up for.
Mhm.
I try very hard to talk him out of relying on me for that kind of public facing stuff. I'm like, you should get Christina Warren in here because she could kill this.
Yeah, no, I mean, but so we should start a DevRel team with Yumi and Jay. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
Hire me.
DevRel, or even better, DevRel as a service where we can
There you
be like
go.
rent it out by like other teams.
Mercenary DevRel.
I mean, kind of. Okay, like saying this out loud, I kind of don't hate the idea. I've been trying to come up with like a DevRel as a service plan for like years. I think that actually
Kind of
would
brilliant.
work.
I love it. I love it.
Is there a job opening for someone to push the Raspberry Pi computer around on a pallet jack over at your employer? Because that sounds fun.
Yeah, for you, for sure. Also, you would be like, you could help be like our content strategist.
Do you
Just
know
the
about
pallet jack.
do you know about Chris? Do you know about Chris Benson's Pi cluster?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Raspberry Pi supercomputer?
He
basically
got laid off.
Oh, so there is a job opening for pushing it around on a pallet
No,
jack.
they apparently didn't appreciate his obsession with this 1,000 Pi.
Corporations only
But it was so
recognize
cool.
limited
It
obsession.
was so cool. And like it was the center attraction at some conferences.
Yes,
Like,
at Oracle World. I was gonna say, like, wasn't like the only news that like came out of Oracle
Yeah.
World one year was that like,
yeah.
like what the fuck?
And he
Oracle?
was so good at it.
He
and
was.
he made great video content. Like he had the whole setup with like the overhead cameras at the electronics bench and everything. And he was so dedicated to it. And there was like an interpersonal conflict with him and one of our 3 managers at that point. And he got cut, which sucks. I should check in with him. I assume he landed on his feet. He's a goddamn genius.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that he, anybody who's smart and who has headcount would hire him. But that just seems like such a waste.
Or he's now like Guilfoyle in a garage somewhere in Silicon Valley with his Pi cluster.
It's true.
So before we wrap up Mental Health Corner, how are you guys doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm in a. I kind of already talked about mine a little bit. Like I'm doing okay. Like I'm basically. I think I'm in a better place than I certainly was like earlier this year, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing where things go. Like I said, I'm now at this point. I'm like at a month or so on no meds other than Dexedrine, and that's been doing okay. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You just reminded me I haven't taken my meds today. I'm just gonna rattle my meds for you here, and then
you're gonna pop some Vyvanse in the middle of the
not
show.
much. No, I can't take Vyvanse anymore.
Really? Why?
Yeah, it caused a. I mean, I had a sort of manic episode that was stronger than any I had had since I was diagnosed. It wasn't anything like that, but it was more. It more existed in the way my body sort of shit in my body just banged around inside. And I only have one medication treating that, which is Lamictal. And I was taking Vyvanse, and it had been a month of just this on and off like rattling in me, and I was not in a good place. I was having a hard time working. It wasn't the kind of manic where it's like, woo, at least I'm getting shit done.
Yeah.
And I met with my medication manager for the first time for a long time, like since I went to Kenya. I mean, which was like in June or July. And we're going through everything. I'm telling her what's been going on for me and stuff. And she's listening, and let's just check in on what medications you're still taking or whatever. And I list Vyvanse. She's like, wait, have you been taking the Vyvanse this whole time? I was like, yeah. She's like, I think you need to stop. Let's just see what happens if you stop. And I was afraid to stop, like to just cut it completely. Cause it only takes a couple days to get over the weirdness of cutting Vyvanse completely. But like, sometimes those days really suck. And, but I did it. Cause I was having a really bad end of days, basically. Not that it was the end of my days, but like,
Sure.
Anyway, I just realized I'm actually very good about taking my medication in the morning, but I have misplaced my pill sorter. And so when I'm done talking here, and I only have a little bit to say for my mental health check-in, although that was probably it right there. One thing that happened for me this week that was really helpful is, for various reasons known mostly to my therapist, like I've been pretty paralyzed when it comes to trying to sit down and work lately, like, which is something I've experienced for decades. Like it's a sort of a dissociative experience, which it takes a long time to get into that. But like, it's almost like the way I describe it is like, I'll sit down at my desk feeling pretty clear headed about what I need to do. And then it's like a dream where like there's a thing in front of you, and when you reach out for it, it disappears. When you put your hand back, it appears. Reach out for it, it disappears. And I actually experience my brain just like going blank when I'm trying to just work. And actually, this wasn't what I was going to talk about, but I rejiggered my Stream Deck, which I've used for a long time as like almost assistive technology, because if I'm in a meeting or something, often it's just because my brain is thinking about too many things at once. But if I'm in a meeting and I need to kind of pull up a document, or I need to just quickly sort of reference something, the Spark happens to do that, like the little neuron fires. But because I'm also in a relational experience where I'm talking to people, because I'm very like in meetings, very sort of relational based, it's hard for me to then start just pulling up documents. And so for a long time, I've had my Stream Deck in front of me in meetings for whatever project I'm on, and the main documents are there because I can just like reach over and press the button and it pops up. Even though I could do Alfred, I could do a million things. That is the thing that creates a kind of calm
the physical
for me.
button helps.
Physical button. It's kind of like how I still want knobs on my stereo in my car, which is why I still drive a car that's very old. But anyway, I kind of rejiggered that because I've been just really kind of freezing up. And so like one thing I added, it's just silly, but like, it's not silly, but it's massive. It's like, I have a shortcut on my computer that like, if I run the shortcut, it's a Mac shortcut or whatever, it just shows me my next 5 calendar events. And I can run that 100 times a day because my brain, for whatever reason, I can hold all kinds of stuff. Like I work at like a high level, right? Like I write a lot, I do a lot, I talk about a lot. And when it comes to that basic kind of executive function stuff, I can really, there's something it gets interrupted. So I have that button. Then I have a new one because every project I'm on has a damn Google Drive folder, which like I don't love. But I made another like Mac shortcut where it's like I press a button on my Stream Deck and a little menu comes up with my 5 main projects, and it's the main Google Drive folder. Select it, it comes open. Anyhow, that's like loosened me up a little bit because I was really dealing with this kind of like paralysis, and I'm still dealing with it. But the thing that really helped me this week was my therapist was like, this is a part of a whole wider conversation, but she was like, I think it's time for you to just kind of look at your environment that you're working in and think about not just are there things you should take out, but are there things you should put in, right? And it happened to be just the right kind of therapy appointment where when she suggested that and I hung up, it was a Zoom thing, I was able to look around and be like, oh shit, like my aperture was wide. I was like, yes, this and this and this and this and this, these things kind of stress me out, and they're like all around me. And I went and just like, I just actually sat in one place and made a list of the things that I think might be a little stressful for me. And then I went and started boxing them up, and it was great because I keep a lot of like bullshit around, like little trinkets, little like
Sure.
things that help me think of people or times or whatever. But like most of those things are not neutral times or neutral people. And most of them are almost like battle scar type of stuff. And even if it's like battle scar, like it was a band that broke up and it was a painful breakup or something, and there's a picture of me playing with that band or whatever. And so I went through it. I just kind of cleared that stuff out, and it felt so good. And I'm not done. I'm actually looking. You listeners can't see this, but you can. I'm looking off to the left because I have it. Almost looks like I got fired. Like I have like a box in the corner of the office, like a couple of picture frames popping out.
Yeah.
But the other thing my therapist was saying is like, so also think about what could come in. And that's been huge for me. So I've really simplified, but then I'm bringing things in. I'm trying to talk my family into letting me take. My son in 8th grade had a class, an art class, where they were all supposed to be making structures. And people were making like castles, and someone made a little princess house or whatever, and he made a fleet farm. And I'm like trying.
I don't know if Christina knows
Fleet
what a
farm,
fleet
it's
farm
just like
is.
the best ever. Like it is a big box store in a certain sense, like a Home Depot, but it's really a farm supply store, and it's really an Ace Hardware magnified, right? Like you can buy actual cowbells there.
When Ivanka Trump came to my town, she did a photo op at Fleet Farm because it was supposed to make her feel more relatable to rural Minnesota.
Yeah.
Which is also why I don't shop at Fleet Farm anymore. I shop at Menards.
I know Menards. I'm familiar with Menards.
Yeah. It's like Menards, but 1,000 times better. Like
so is it like Menards and like a Home Depot combined?
No, it's Menards, a Home Depot, a Tractor Supply store, a farm supply store.
Yep,
like the one in my hometown has live chicks. Not like live
if you want
girls,
barbed
like
wire
chicks.
and a shotgun, and you want some feed and
a bag of nuts, and a really big bag of nuts,
and maybe some bulk, like what are those little puffy orange candies called that your grandma always had?
Oh yeah, it's the circus peanuts.
Yeah.
Like if you want all that at once, you go to Fleet Farm, and it's a disorganized mess, really, because there's just so much stuff.
I've been to your Fleet Farm, but not in mine.
It's organized, but you have to ask somebody, where am I headed in this?
Well, you know why I don't have that experience? Because my obsession with Fleet Farms, and I've been to everyone in the region, is that it's a place that I just go through every single aisle, because at some point I'm going to be like, whoa, horse mane shampoo.
Right.
And
a saddle while you're there.
Yeah, like this. Anyway, so he made a Fleet Farm, and I want that at my desk, like right in front of me. Like that's the kind of stuff I want, like right now. And the interesting thing was that as I sort of simplified the space from things that were a little just felt a certain way for me, including some like professional books that were like part of a transition from one life to another in a certain way, I realized I felt more and more like myself now. Like it was nice. I often think that like by having all these things spread around me, it is sort of it's like evidence that I have lived. And it is like, well, it's in me anyhow, so here it is. But moving it out was just like, oh, I do actually feel a little more like grounded in this moment without all these things. Cause I would see them in my Zoom thing, and I would see, anyway, that was nice. Everyone talks about in productivity and stuff, your environment. And I think mental health is another context to talk about how you construct your environment. Not surprisingly. I also have a wad of cash sitting in front of me right now. That makes me feel good too.
Fuck yeah.
I went to the bank. I'm instead of Christmas shopping this year, I am just sending $50 bills to all of my nieces and nephews
and podcast co-hosts.
Which I've done before, and it feels like the cheap way out. But honestly, as a kid,
love it.
The gift I look forward to most every year was the $100 bill my grandma would send me. I didn't
1000%.
like everything else was like with ephemeral.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gonna like this toy for a month and then you're gonna be done with it. But $100 bill and I saved as a kid. I had a savings account.
Same.
Like I didn't go out and blow it on candy and toys. Like I built up a savings account. What?
Same.
It was like an endorphin rush to see, like, oh my God.
I wish I had that endorphin.
I'm a 10-year-old kid with $1,000.
Yes.
And
I saved, I mean, like I literally, like we would call it I mean, and for many years, and I still do this to a certain extent. It's funny, despite how much money I spend, I actually have a fair amount in savings. It'd be more if I had a house and other things, but like,
Sure.
I could do better, to be very clear. I could do a lot
Sure.
better. But I definitely as a kid, like they would call it the Bank of Christina. And I mean, it got to the point, like I actually had to get like a lock on my door because my dad like really literally was like using me as like a personal ATM, and it was a problem.
I've been there with my son. I'm like, do you have a 20 up there? I'll get you back.
Yeah. No, it was like a problem, but like, and I had a savings account and then I got a checking account and I would put money in it, but I couldn't put stuff in all the time. But like, I would like take like the $20 I would get for allowance and other things and gifts. And I would like save it. Like I've saved enough for 1 year. Like I basically bought like the monitor for our computer and the printer, for the family
Nice.
computer. I remember I had enough money one time and this was like the best, like pre-Christmas thing ever. So when the Nintendo 64 came out, this one, it was like, this is the first console I remember that was like impossible to find in stores. Like I'm sure that there had been difficulty finding other things, but like from the time it was released, you could not get a Nintendo 64. And the games were really limited too. Like there were only a few games out at launch and they were really hard to find. And 9 days before Christmas, I was at a Target and I saw some family like buying one and they didn't have any accessories or anything. And I went up to the guy and I was like, do you have any more Nintendo 64s? And he put one up on the counter and I was like, I will be right back. And I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, I have $250 in, like stored in the living room and in the drawer where you keep your Bibles where Dad won't go. And I will buy this. I will give you the money as soon as I get home. I was like, but I need this.
Picture your dad opening the drawer of Bibles and being like, whoa, shit, closing it really fast. Like, that's safe.
Totally. So she, so I got it and I had to rent a game because you literally could not get Mario 64 anywhere. So I had to like rent the game.
Like a red box for video games?
It was
the video store.
Yeah.
That's right. I forget that. Generational difference.
Totally. It was a home video, but it might have been Blockbuster. I think home video didn't have Nintendo 64 games yet. So I think it was Blockbuster. I got that and a Wayne Gretzky game. And I because those were the only two games I could play, and memory cards so that I could like save my progress myself and then transfer it to the new game when I was able to finally get my own. And my mom, this was the worst thing. She still made me freaking like wrap it up under the tree. I bought it myself, and I still had to wait 9 days.
My parents are like that. I bought my parents a Lomi, the thing that turns your kitchen refuse into compost overnight.
Yeah.
I bought them that.
Does it work?
It was on. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Sorry.
I use it daily.
Got it.
So I thought they would like one. They were super interested. I bought it for them, and I had them order it, and I would just pay for it. And they got it, and they called me, and they're like, "All right, we got it. Do you want to come over and wrap it? And we'll open it on Christmas morning." And I'm like, no, start using it.
Yeah. That's so funny.
It's your Christmas present now. Take it and go. Do you guys remember savings bonds?
Oh, yeah. I had a ton. My grandma gave me those every year.
I'm aware of them. I don't think I ever got any.
Oh, my aunt and uncle used to send me $100 savings bond every Christmas, it costs like $50 and you give it, I think,
and
3 to 5 years
later, it's worth 110.
And I collected those all through my childhood, and it felt like a big gift, but it wasn't money you could spend right away. So those all got set aside, and it wasn't until I was in like a financial crisis that I remembered, oh my God, I have this drawer full of savings bonds. And it added up to like $3,000, but it sucked because I needed that $3,000 just to get through like my current crisis, and then it was just all gone. So it
draw that time.
Yeah. It felt like a lot of saving and a lot of effort for something that it saved my skin, but it was disappointing.
It's kind of like
really, as a kid, I really thought that was going to be.
Yeah, no, I did too.
More exciting.
I was like, this is gonna be amazing. It's like in No Country for Old Men when he's like, do you know how long this quarter's been on this journey to you? It's like those savings bonds. They were just on this journey to help you with that 1 week.
I don't think you can buy savings bonds anymore.
I don't think so.
Or is it CDs?
No. I mean, my grandma gave them
CDs
to my boys up until about 15 or 20 years. No, they're not 20. Up until about 15 years ago. Or maybe 12 years ago, she was still buying them. but I think she actually may have bought them all in bulk when when each kid was
Nice.
born, she would buy a bunch and then give them out. So that may have been
so
what
maybe they
happened.
were already matured by the time she gave them.
Yeah,
maybe so.
I was gonna say, I think, because wasn't the whole thing, because like a CD is different, but like
Yeah,
from
is.
from what I understood, and I never had relatives who got me saving months. Like my father's family who had money never gave us money for shit like that because they were bad with it and whatever. And fuck his mother. But like I
wasn't gonna say it.
Well, I mean, like if there's a hell, she's there. But like, my mom's family, who ironically like didn't have money, and then wound up when they died. Not only were their funerals completely like plots, everything prepaid, had they saved enough to pay for like all of their medical expenses and other things, and paid off the house and other stuff, they still had like money to leave to the kids. Like it was kind of wild, actually, like that these very like simple like people who like lived a very like modest life actually had like far more money to leave to their family than like the millionaire who it turned out actually wasn't like was like living off the company money and like had
Rich people are the worst tippers.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, it depends on how rich you are. Like there's like old money rich people will tip well, but yeah, it totally depends. But like, so they didn't give me savings bonds. What they would do is I would get like candy money is what my grandmother would call it, and she'd put
my aunt called it ice cream money. My great aunt.
Yeah, and she would call it like she put like $20 or something, for like a holiday and whatnot. But I always thought that savings bonds were like a scam. Like that's what my understanding always was that like there's that people like thinking that it was going to be worth way more, and then
it's guaranteed money.
It's guaranteed.
I know
money.
it's guaranteed money.
To be a very poor return on investment.
Well, that's what I meant in terms of
it's a contractually
that's fair.
Right. Well, that's what I meant. Like by scam, I meant like the return on investment for these things is like non-existent. Like obviously, it's like a the bond is guaranteed, but like like it was one of those things that I think that you'd have. I always just imagine, and this is just from TV, which is mostly my knowledge of savings bonds, of like door-to-door salesmen. They're like, oh, it's going to be such a great return on investment. And this will be how you're going to pay for your kids' college and this and that, and just buy this. And it's like, no, really what you want is like a, whatever the sort of a Roth account is. And you want to do like these other things. Like that's how you really save for college. But like, to get like a really good
until
return.
There's a financial crash and your IRA becomes worthless.
I mean, fair, but I mean, at that point, everybody had bigger fish to fry.
Oh, all right. Did we just spend 42 minutes on a mental health corner?
We did.
We did. We meandered out of it.
So
We've got a lot of other things.
I feel like it's important that we acknowledge the pivotal role that this podcast played in Taylor Swift becoming Times Person of the Year.
Yes.
And that's you too. I came in late, so I
mean,
I have to be a little humble about it.
Okay, you can be a little humble, but it is more Brett and I. But I'm going to give you credit here, Jeff. Like Brett was really ready to like not talk about Taylor Swift ever again, and you've been like willing to let me continue to talk about her, and you've been willing to like let me continue the conversation, especially this year, which was the pivotal year. So I know I think obviously it was our podcast. It was the three of us, and that is why. Did either of you read the profile? The profile was actually really good.
It was really long.
It is really long.
I skimmed it. I read paragraphs that jumped out at me. I did not read the whole thing. I got some interesting tidbits.
Yes.
She has led an interesting life, and she has made some powerful decisions that have benefited her well. I did enjoy the story about her first, like right at the beginning of the article, it talked about her
Kenny
first
Chesney.
her first heartbreak when she was like scheduled to open and it was going to change her
She
career.
got the Kenny Chesney tour. It would change her career. She gets so much money, and then
he got sponsored by a beer company.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't old enough to be involved. And he came back to her at like her 18th birthday party and gave her a check for all the money that she probably missed out on by being the opening act. And she was able to like pay her band bonuses and pay for tour buses and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's just do the list of things that she paid for with that check, and then let us try to figure out how much
How much that check was.
was for. So he is like, I'm sorry this kid couldn't tour with me. It would have been a big deal for her. She would have made a ton of fucking money. And so he sends her a birthday check, right? And it's like Brett just said, I'm searching this as I look. It's like she paid bonuses to her band. It paid for her tour buses, right?
Mhm.
Like it paid for so much. How much was this check?
Probably
Inflation considered.
I mean, I don't know, probably $1 million. I don't know.
And
Yeah,
when
$1
I know
million
Kenny
would cover that.
Chesney makes a lot of money, but I think of people at his level of fame, which is probably bigger than I think, as like not able to cut $1 million check.
I think in 2006, I think he would be able to very
06,
easily,
yeah,
because
that's
you got to
right.
think, about a couple things there. One, the economy for the music industry had not completely collapsed yet. Like people were still buying CDs,
Yes.
and so he was selling a shitload of CDs. Like we didn't listen
Yes.
to him because we're not his demographic, but he was selling a shitload of CDs. And
Hey man, I saw him in 07. It was girls' night out at the Indiana State Fair. I went with my mother-in-law and my wife, girls' night out.
Okay, so that's a big thing to play too, right? Like so he's playing like big venues. Like Indiana State Fair is like, he's getting paid well for
Good
that.
venue. Yeah.
Well, not to mention the merch sales, right? So like, so you're getting merch, you're getting touring, you're getting still CD stuff. So I think he probably could cut her. I don't know what it would be pre-inflation, but like equivalent of $1 million now. And yeah, she'd be able to do it, which she didn't expand upon in that article, but I do know from past things with her, because this is brilliant. So they bought their buses, and I think they actually bought them from Kenny Chesney. And they
Wait, this is money laundering. This is starting to look like a different deal.
No. Now
I get it.
Now you get it. Yeah, no, I'm sure there's some money, definitely money laundering. No, they bought the buses. Then what they did is they would rent them when they were not in use to other acts, because her dad is like an actual like financial like advisor, like analyst, like stockbroker, like a guy who's actually very, very good, like was paid for a very long time to manage other people's money in the many, many millions of dollars. So he's the sort of person who you would be perfect to be like the dad of like a burgeoning like country pop star, right? Like this is not Britney Spears' family who's like, how much money can we suck out of this girl? This is like, oh no, okay, how can we leverage this the best we can? So he's like, okay, well, we'll buy the buses and then we'll rent them when we're not using them. And that way we can get tax write-offs, but also we can continue to make money for us even when we're not on the road. And like
passive income tour buses.
Totally.
So what does Taylor Swift's mom do?
She was in marketing, and then I think she was a stay-at-home for Merrill Lynch, and then she's a stay-at-home mom.
So the formula,
and now she's a baroness,
to becoming $1 billion Time Person of the Year is to be 1, insanely talented.
Yes.
2, have a financial manager for a father.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, have a marketing person as a mother.
Well,
yeah,
you gotta have a Kenny Chesney.
And you're well on your way.
And you're well,
and a check from Jenny.
And then the check from Kenny Chesney. Yeah, no, I mean, to be clear, like it's her talent alone, I think probably she would have gotten a record deal, especially when they were giving everyone record deals.
Sure.
The reason
a lot of people got record deals.
Oh, no, to be very clear.
We don't hear about them anymore.
Oh, no, absolutely. And to be very clear, I think the reason she's been so successful, and she, I think, would be the first to admit this, is like she came from money. Her family was willing to move to Nashville for her. Like they literally like picked up, like went from their palatial estate or whatever in Pennsylvania, went to Nashville, like to help her pursue her dream. They had the money to do it, and then they had the money to invest. And also, when she was signed to a songwriting deal with one of the record labels, and they were like, they didn't want her to perform her own songs. They were like, well, we'll give you a record deal, but we want you to sing other people's stuff. And she's like, this isn't right. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to back out. And her mom is like, God, we've worked so hard. I can't believe you're going to do this. But she was like, okay, I'll trust you. And that was when she then met Scott Borchetta, who let her do her own stuff. And of course, that relationship ended awfully, but it was very productive for like the first decade or 15 years or whatever of her career. So, yeah, but to be very clear, like, having the right support system around you, which almost no one of her age ever has, like the dividends. And to this day, she even says in the article, she like that she considers her thing like a small family business, because her dad's still involved, her mom's still involved, her brother's involved. Like, they keep it tight.
I have a friend who would frequently reference his family's small business, and then I realized he was a trust fund kid who didn't have to work, and that family business was massive, but it was controlled by a small number of family members. It's
Yeah,
like, oh,
which I
that's
think is
like what
basically
you mean.
this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. My mother-in-law, when we went to see Kenny Chesney, I kept calling him Kenny McChesney because that's what I thought his name was. She thought I was being an asshole.
Now that we're in a lighter mood here, I'm gonna do a quick sponsor break.
Yes, perfect.
This episode is brought to you by Around Square. You know that experience of learning something new that would have been so useful last week, or finding something special that you hadn't realized you'd been missing all these years? Well, today might be one of those days. Around Square is a company that you've probably never heard about, but for certain people, the brand, the products, and the ideas just really resonate. Since 2007, Around Square has been designing and producing beautiful, unusual, functional goods for the mind and body. Their specialty is a range of intriguing little objects for everyday carry. Many of these things could be described as skill toys, dexterity trainers, or fidget items, but they really don't conform to these labels, and none of them really do the products justice. They're striking minimalist objects more akin to jewelry than playthings, but they're also serious tools designed for creative exploration and peaceful manipulation, things to keep the hands busy and the mind at ease by providing just the desired level of stimulation. Around Square's eclectic range goes way beyond this and includes stationery, jewelry, functional clothing, and much more. Check it out at www.aroundsquare.com and use the code Overtired at checkout for 15% off. That's Around Square, AROUNDSQUARE.com, and use the code Overtired. And now back to Christina for the Taylor Swift update.
And then now back to me for the penultimate for the ending on this. So again, this very long article, but it's a really good one. And this comes towards the end. And basically the author has just kind of written about how he was kind of evaluating when he was talking to her. She was kind of telling the story about how 2016 was this really low point in her life, and she didn't think that anybody was going to listen to her music again, and that she thought that she, had to go into hiding and all this stuff. And he kind of was thinking to himself, like, but you actually, that lead single off that next album sold, that would hit number one, and the album sold 1.3 million, albums its first week, and you had this massive thing, and it didn't look, like anybody's career had died. You looked like you were a superstar who, I'm going to read from him. She looked like a superstar who was mining her personal experience as successfully as ever. I am tempted to say this, but then I think, who am I to challenge it if that's how she felt? The point is, she felt canceled. She felt as if her career had been taken from her. Something in her had been lost, and she was grieving it. And then this is, I think, really brilliant. Maybe this is the real Taylor Swift effect, that she gives people, many of them women, particularly girls, who have been conditioned to accept dismissal, gaslighting, and mistreatment from a society that treats their emotions as inconsequential, permission to believe that their interior lives matter. That for your heart to break, whether it's from being kicked off a tour, or by the memory of a scarf still sitting in a drawer somewhere, or because somebody else controls your life's work, is a valid wound. And no, you're not crazy for being upset about it or for wanting your story to be told.
That seems fair.
And I think that's like, I think he's right. I think that is like the real, like, that's I think that encapsulates like why this year in particular, finally, like, I think she even says in the article, like, that she feels like she's like at like this precipice moment at 33. I don't think anybody anticipated that she would have the year that she had, but I think that's it, is that it's, it gives people, especially women and particularly girls, like permission to be like, yes, this shitty thing happened to me, and I might be over dramatizing it in my own head, or I'm not, but I can feel this. And that's pretty fucking great.
I'll make my own goddamn video about it.
It goes back to like what we were talking about
this time.
Talking about with depression, like,
yes,
it's the same feeling that like, this can't be that bad, even though it feels wrong for me. Like, let's put it in the context of everybody else, and I'm not special, and I don't deserve to have these feelings. And I think it speaks to that kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and you see it like at the concert. I can't wait for you guys to watch the tour movie when it comes on streaming and Plex accounts.
I saw it in the theater. No, I'm just kidding. I did.
I was like, you did not, you liar.
Oh,
It's
they had the Taylor Swift popcorn buckets when I went to see Ghost in the Shell with my
Yeah.
son. He brought me there. I didn't bring him there.
Wait, Ghost in the Shell was in the theater?
Yeah, it's like a remastered version. This is a really good
no
one.
shit.
It's good.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love that
Anyway,
movie.
sorry, but we almost ended up with Taylor Swift popcorn buckets and Ghost in the Shell, which is funny.
Ooh, that is funny, actually. No, I can't wait for you guys to like for that to come out so you can see parts of the concert, because I'm not going to make you watch all 3.5 hours. Don't worry, but it is actually
3.5 hours.
Yeah, she performs for 3.5 hours.
Oh my god.
Oh, and they
Like
cut
Springsteen.
and they cut songs from the release version, so it's only 3 hours in the theatrical release. They cut like
Oh my
6 songs.
God.
Yeah, well, I mean, genuinely, it is like the most amazing like achievement of like artistic like athleticism I've ever seen in my life. Because
I watched King Kong with a notebook and just marked down all
I
the
wish
shit
that was the name of a movie.
I thought they could cut. I think like King Kong could have been a 2-hour movie.
oh yeah,
That's the hill you're gonna die at. You're like, of all the movies you
All
could go
movies.
to be like, you know,
That
what,
was-
cut this.
that
You're
was-
like fucking King Kong. Give
that
me my
is-
notebook.
So Lord of the Rings, like that could have been cut too.
oh of course.
But like King Kong is the one I feel most wasted, like hours of my life. And like I am almost vindictive about how long King Kong was.
Before off of the Taylor Swift topic, I want to just tell you how this article highlighted a problem in Instapaper, which is that when I open it in Instapaper, it says this. Here's the headline: Taylor Swift is Time's 2023 Person of the Year by Taylor Swift, Time. I don't know how that ended up happening, but it's pretty like she really figured out how to
She
control
really
everything.
figured out how to control
She
everything.
could control everything.
She
Yeah.
even figured out how to like make Instapaper. Like, yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
very funny.
She hacked into Marco Arment's thing, and that hacked into the New York Times, and now here you go. She wrote.
Speaking of Instapaper, should we do some gratitude?
Let's do some gratitude.
Oh man, so I'll kick it off. I just published my Brett's Favorites 2023. I do this every year on my blog. There's a second installment coming, but I listed probably 30 apps that I love this year. So I'm going to link that in the show notes and people can check it out. I think based on the mention of Instapaper, I want to highlight Artifact.
Okay.
Have you guys used Artifact at all?
That's the
No.
that's the news app from the Instagram guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is pretty. They went through a recent change where they started highlighting user comments more than news stories. So it takes a little extra work to use it as a news app than it used to. But I love it. It has AI generated summaries of every article. And then if you click it, you go to the actual article on the web. So that author gets like, ad money, whatever. I do love that if enough people report a headline as clickbaity, they will have AI rewrite the headline based on the content of the article in a non-clickbaity fashion. So you get, like, I go through Apple News and I get frustrated because it's
Awful.
so many Newsweek articles. So many Newsweek articles get
Totally.
foisted on me. And Artifact has actually led me in the categories that I tell that I'm interested in. It has provided a lot of really good news from a variety of sources and not just an echo chamber of what it thinks I want to hear. It's pretty good. The algorithm is people centric in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. And obviously it's from the Instagram, the original Instagram team, the Mike and Kevin, who, I think regardless of, look, however you use Instagram now and however it's evolved, like I think that is probably one of the most impressive apps ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like to have a team of
Yeah.
9 people sell like an app for over $1 billion and it to remake a massive tech company to be like one of the central like things. Like I think Instagram as a product, and I think Facebook as a company like was greatly hurt when the two of them left like 4 years ago. But yeah,
Sure.
so kudos to Artifact. I actually do you have yours, Jeff, ready?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, it's really so it's this torrent app on setup called Folks,
Oh yeah.
Folx, and like it is a good app in that any torrent app could be good. I mean, they're all it's such a shit show that you're navigating, and so it's clean, and I get my stuff quickly, and I don't have to look at crazy ass ads ever. Um, and I've really appreciated it because I haven't found anything better. I don't like love it the most, but I want to just say if anybody knows of anything that's even cleaner and more elegant and has a even better search functionality, I'll look at it.
Okay, so you're looking for something that can search for stuff, not just something that will manage torrents.
Yeah, and even just I don't seed shit. I'm a one-way Johnny.
Right. Okay.
Put that season 1 of Columbo in my pocket.
Got
Out
it.
of here.
Okay, so transmission won't give you the search, but is a very clean interface if you have another way to use it. So transmission, which was recently
Got it.
within the last year or so, like it finally got a massive 4.0 upgrade. 4.05 I think came out 2 days ago, so that's now finally being actively developed again. And it runs natively on M1 Macs now and whatnot, and that is it's on a number of platforms, but it was originally a Mac app. That's I think like the best all around clean client. However, it's not going to give you like the search ability stuff. So Folks
Yeah, and I
might
mean,
still be
and
better at that.
part of why I'm interested if there's something better is not, I mean, because they do an amazing job when you consider the shitscape that is searching torrents online.
Oh, totally.
I mean, what you have to navigate to show you something.
You have a Synology, don't you, Jeff?
I sure do have a Synology.
There are transmission is available for Synology. There's also a default package called Download Station that actually has really, really decent search, really decent, like it'll automatically find magnet links. And then you can just like pick a torrent and then come back the next day and you don't have to sit and watch the number of peers and percentage download and everything. And it just goes to your Synology while you sleep. And
just tell me when the first 3 police academies are ready.
It works pretty well. Yeah. I have found many a TV show unavailable on streaming using Download Station.
Yeah, Download Station is great, and Usenet,
great.
and Usenet is still a great thing too if you're willing to pay for some of the Newsnet services. You can get a lot of really great stuff from the
there's
from
still
the
Usenet services.
Oh yeah, no, they're okay. Again, it's just for file sharing. So but like there's Giga News, there are a bunch of them, and basically like they will have like really long retention times, and you can use things like Sonar and Radar to search and find basically anything you want and whatever quality you want, and then just queue it up and it'll download for you.
Okay, got it. Cool. Thank you. I will start playing.
We should have like a piracy episode sometime.
That'd be fun. Is there a great piracy guest we could bring?
I'm thinking about it.
An actual pirate?
I mean, maybe. I was actually thinking maybe we could get one of the Torrent Freak guys on to talk.
Oh yeah, I would love to pepper questions at a torrent expert / piracy / pirate.
Guaranteed to get us top billing on the podcast apps.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it depends. Like, are they algorithmically determined? If so, then yeah, probably. If there's no human like curating that stuff, then like, yeah.
Man, what's yours, Christina?
Okay, so we were talking about read it later apps, and I have to say, like, I've been using for the last year or so. I've been using Readwise is Reader, and it's awesome. And so Readwise is a service, readwise.io. And and they have a reader service, which will also kind of act as like a read it later thing, which is really, really good. Like it's basically the idea is that you can kind of like import all of your highlights from like your Kindle and your Instapaper or iBooks or, Pocket or whatever, if you're wanting to kind of keep track of that stuff. And then Reader, they basically built like a read it later app for power users is how they describe it. And I love it because you can basically bring in RSS, you can bring in PDFs, you can bring in like YouTube videos, you can bring in other read it later stuff, you can bring in EPUBs, you can like connect newsletters to it. And so they literally built an app that like would be like, I remember when I first read about it, I was like, okay, this is the perfect app for me. Like this seems
So
like this was
amazing.
done for me. And like I'm still, I think I have to check. I think I still pay for Instapaper Pro. I don't even know anymore. But I was like
I do too.
but I was like a lifetime Instapaper person, even though I
Yeah.
haven't used that actively in a really long time.
Yeah.
And I never really got into Pocket because I was Team Marco, and like whatever. And like old grudges die hard, frankly.
Yeah.
Because I remember when that first started, I was like a Firefox extension, and they kind of copied like Marco's whole thing. Anyway,
Totally.
like everything's under the bridge now, but like I've always like we used to say at Gizmodo, it was like people were like, oh, we just use Pocket, and we were like, no, we were an Instapaper family. But now I think I'm a Readwise reader family.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good app, and so
I had
Go on.
heard about this, but I had never checked it out before. And I'm looking through the feature list, and bringing like, especially if I can combine my like Kindle reading and my highlights in ebooks with stuff I find on the web and read later, tagging and note searching, and it can sync to our sometimes sponsored Notion.
Yep.
Yeah, this looks pretty great.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. And the pricing of it is you can use you can try it out, but I think it's like $8 a month or something, which for me is completely worth it. So
Nice.
And to any listeners who now have the song Under the Bridge in their head like I do, just because Christina said the words Under the Bridge, I see you. But I cannot help you because I can't even help myself.
I'm sorry about that, but yeah, great song though.
Last thing I'll mention, for anyone who has bought an Ultimate Hacking keyboard based on my recommendation, they just came out with, they call it the Riser 60, and it is a tenting mechanism for your keyboard that gives you, I think, up to 60-degree tilt from the side, which is ergonomically fantastic. Like I tent mine at like 10 degrees using the built-in feet, but I'm so excited to have it tented like almost vertically and type from the side. That's so
Can't
much
wait
better
to
for
show
my
you
wrist.
the keyboard that is custom built for the 3 fucking fingers I use to type, because it's gonna
Dude,
do to you what all this does to me. You're gonna
So-
be like, well, I don't know how to use a machine so complex.
I'm showing you. I did this to my finger.
Ooh,
And
yeah, he's showing me a cut finger, which will now retract.
it's
Fuck off,
Alexa
Siri.
doesn't understand.
Oh, okay, that's Alexa's
Hard
fault.
to
Sorry.
understand.
But I butchered my finger, and I couldn't touch type with because every time my keyboard was covered in blood. It was wicked. So
That's
I started
awesome.
trying to type with my 2 like forefingers and trying to like hunt and peck type, and I can't do it. Like my brain is so geared to touch typing that I don't know. It takes me so long just to type the word "the." It took so much effort. It was insane. I don't know how you do it.
Well, see, now when everything gets even worse and people have their fingers all cut up, look who's going to still be writing.
And it's
And you're going to be
true.
over with your fucking tent typewriter or whatever the fuck it is you've got. Fucking, what are you doing?
It's like a
Anyhow.
homeless shelter for typewriters.
Aw, that's nice.
We should have his book. The shipping has been delayed because of slipcover madness. But when Martian's book comes out, like we should have him back on the pod.
Oh, Slipcover Madness would
I
be a
have
great
paid for
book
that.
blog.
I'm
I do
anxious
too.
to get it.
Me too. It's probably not going to happen by Christmas, but
He was a guest when I
okay.
was away, right? Wasn't he
Yeah.
a guest when I was away? Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to have him back to talk with you because you guys would like. I mean, look, he fits this pod like perfectly. Like I met him.
Does he tent his keyboards?
I mean, he has like the most insane like typewriter and keyboard collection like of anybody you've seen. Like, he literally wrote this book about like the history of
I love
keyboards
it.
and stuff.
I love it.
And he and I met and like became friends because we talked about sneakers one day for like 3.5 hours in Twitter DMs.
The movie or the
movie.
article of clothing? Okay, got it. Great.
The
Does anybody
movie.
call them sneakers still?
Usually Kicks, but yeah, I mean, some people call them Kicks. Yeah.
Kicks. That's what the kids are saying.
Pumped up kicks.
All right, Boston
Mm.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's
Under
in
the
my head.
bridge downtown.
Good to
I'm
see
gonna
you guys.
I'm gonna fight you
Seeing
with
you
Under
too.
the Bridge. Get some sleep under the bridge
some sleep.
downtown. Bye.
The system is going down now.